Hey everybody, how's it going? It's the 4K Lowdown, and I just read on the internet, and of course the internet doesn't lie, but from several sources that Bruce Willis is retired from acting due to a medical condition, and I want to wish Bruce Willis all the best. So, in light of that news, I went and was just looking at the movies that I own that star Bruce Willis, and just starring or co-starring, I had 38 of his movies in multiple formats. But there's probably many more out there that I have where he's not one of the main co-stars, but he's in the cast. Uh, so what I wanted to do was pick my favorite movies of Bruce Willis, and I narrowed it down to 15. So I'm doing my top 15 Bruce Willis movies. So basically, what I did was I took my 15 favorites and I scored them using my Lowdown format. I'm not going to announce the score this time, just announce the order, and then put them together like that. So the the winner or the highest score may not necessarily be my favorite of his movies. It just happened to get scored that way. So, without further ado, like that's a real word, but started off at number 15. And at number 15, I have Striking Distance. This movie stars Bruce Willis and Sarah Jessica Parker. And let's read the box. Bruce Willis and Sarah Jessica Parker star in this mind-bending action mystery. Tom Hardy is a maverick cop who's not afraid to rock the boat in pursuit of a sadistic serial killer. Demoted to River Patrol after suggesting the killer may be a fellow police officer, he initiates an unauthorized investigation which kicks the high-powered plot into overdrive. His new partner, Sarah Jessica Parker, climbs aboard with a surprise of her own as the conspiracy closes around them for a wake-trailing drama about honor, loyalty, and family. Sounds cool, right? Was cool. It's a fun watch. Good whodunit, nice thriller. So that's number 15. At number 14 is Mercury Rising. Mercury Rising stars, alongside Bruce, is Alec Baldwin and Chi McBride. This is the one, I'm going to do this from the box. Art Jeffries, a renegade FBI agent, combats ruthless federal agents to protect Simon, a 9-year-old autistic boy who has cracked the government's new unbreakable code. He can read Mercury, the most advanced encryption code, as easily as other kids read English. This ability renders the new billion-dollar secret code vulnerable, especially if enemies of the United States should learn of Simon's abilities and capture him. Program Chief Nick Kudrow, that's Alec Baldwin, orders the security threat eliminated, but Kudrow hasn't counted on Jeffries getting involved. As they are trailed by deadly assassins, Jeffries quickly realizes that no one can be trusted. Now time is running out, and he discovers his only hope of survival is using Simon's special ability to bring their adversaries to justice. It's pretty cool. I love reading the boxes. So, number 14. At number 13, and I thought this would be higher, and I lost it, slid right down. So, is Unbreakable. This is the 4K Steelbook, which is pretty wicked looking. That's pretty awesome. Anyway, so number 13. After David Dunn emerges from a horrific train crash as the sole survivor, and without a single scratch on him, he meets a mysterious, unsettling stranger, Samuel L. Jackson, who believes comic book heroes walk the earth, and whose sinister, single-minded obsession will impact David's life forever. I really thought this was going to be higher on my list, but after I scored it, it ends up at number 13. Still great, though. Okay, at number 12, we start dipping into the Die Hard franchise. So coming in at number 12 is Die Hard with a Vengeance, the third one. And this one also has Samuel L. Jackson in it. And there is not a whole lot in the steelbook that can help us as far as reading a box, but number 3 is he's back in New York and he's kind of a wastoid. Meets Samuel L. Jackson because Bruce Willis is starting to get involved with the bad guy. Bad guy played by, God, I think it's Jeremy Irons. I'm trying to remember his name. That I know is in here. Yep, Jeremy Irons. Haha, I was right. Okay, so Jeremy Irons is the bad guy and plays Hans Gruber's brother. So goes through all that mess. Turns out really, really good, but it makes number 12. Again, I thought this would be higher. Number 12 on my top 15 list is Die Hard with a Vengeance. Okay, number 11 is The Jackal. And The Jackal, alongside Bruce Willis, stars Richard Gere. And that's when we can read the box. Bruce Willis, Richard Gere, and Sidney Poitier star in this international suspense thriller directed by Michael Caton-Jones, or Caton-Jones. A ruthless assassin has been hired to eliminate someone at the very top of the U.S. government. Constantly changing his identity and location, he is known only as the Jackal. Everything about this hitman, including his sinister timetable, is a secret. Aware of the Jackal's presence, but uncertain of his purpose, the FBI deputy director faces the biggest challenge of his career. In order to track down this cold-blooded killer, he and a by-the-book Russian intelligence officer enlist the aid of an imprisoned Irish terrorist. These unlikely allies enter a global race against the clock to stop the mysterious mercenary before he can complete his deadly assignment. So, really good. Jack Black is in it. It's got a really good cast. But it makes its way to number 11 on my list. So now we're getting into the fun part. We're getting into the top 10. And at number 10 is 12 Monkeys. This is the Arrow Video Blu-ray Steelbook, which I really like. So let's read this. In 1996, a deadly virus is unleashed by a group calling themselves the Army of the 12 Monkeys, destroying much of the world's population and forcing survivors underground. In 2035, prisoner James Cole, Bruce Willis, is chosen to go back in time and help scientists in the search for a cure. oh man, this is a good movie. And it just barely cracks my top 10. So at number 10, 12 Monkeys. So good. All right. Coming in at number 9. And that fell. Kind of expected that. Coming in at number 9 is an interesting one. This is one that I would love to get on 4K. And this is The Siege. The Siege stars Denzel Washington, Annette Bening, and Bruce Willis. When a crowded city bus blows up in Brooklyn and a campaign of terror begins to make its bloody mark on the streets of New York, it's up to FBI Special Agent Anthony Hub Hubbard, Denzel Washington, and U.S. Army General William Devereaux, Bruce Willis, to find out who's responsible and put an end to the destruction. Together they face explosive danger at every turn when they team up to wage an all-out war against a ruthless band of terrorists. This movie goes way beyond that. Some very morally questionable things that happen during this movie that makes it really worth a watch. It's very interesting. So definitely check it out if you haven't seen it. This is The Siege. Comes in at number 9 on my list. Let's see, where are we at? We are at 8, and 8 is... At number 8 is The Last Boy Scout. That's this guy here. The Last Boy Scout stars Bruce Willis and Damon Wayans with Halle Berry. I wonder if... Okay, so... Bruce Willis is a PI tackling corruption inside pro football, and the deadly line of scrimmage stretches across L.A. In The Last Boy Scout, Damon Wayans and Halle Berry co-star. Director Tony Scott ramps up the punches and punchlines. And then the other one is Last Man Standing. That's interesting. They put both things on the back of this box. But anyway, Last Boy Scout, super funny. Great chemistry between Bruce Willis and Damon Wayans. Really liked it. And a very young Danielle Harris is in this movie. So, Last Boy Scout comes in at number 8. And yes, Last Man Standing is also very good, but it was not one of my top 15. Not one of my favorites. Okay, number 7. Lucky number 7 on my list is The Sixth Sense. The Sixth Sense, this was M. Night Shyamalan's home run and Bruce Willis's triple. When Dr. Malcolm Crowe, Bruce Willis, a distinguished child psychologist, meets Cole Sear, Haley Joel Osment, a frightened, confused 8-year-old, Dr. Crowe is completely unprepared to learn the truth of what haunts young Cole. With a riveting intensity you'll find thoroughly chilling and utterly unforgettable, the discovery of Cole's incredible sixth sense leads them both to a mysterious and unforeseeable consequence. Yeah. But you know, this is a movie, the first time you watch it, will absolutely blow your mind. The twist is so monumental that you're like, oh wow, you have to go back and watch the movie again. And there's a few movies that I watched that do this. But since then, I probably haven't watched this movie very often because I already know the ending. So the twist has been spoiled, so to speak. But it's still really good. Still a neat watch. And it comes in at number 7 on my top 15 list. Here we go with number 6. And number 6 is The Fifth Element. Fifth Element is just a yummy piece of fun. Great cast. And let's read the box. The box says New York cab driver Corbin Dallas didn't mean to be a hero. He just picked up the kind of fare that only comes along every 5,000 years. A perfect beauty, a perfect being, a perfect woman. Together, they must save the world. Bruce Willis, Mila Jovovich, and Gary Oldman star in acclaimed director Luc Besson's outrageous sci-fi adventure, an extravagantly styled tale of good against evil set in an unbelievable 23rd century world. Now presented in full 4K resolution, experience this dynamic action favorite like never before. Dun dun dun. Okay, so number 6, Fifth Element on my top 15. Love it, love it. Okay, so for number 5, we go back to the Die Hard case because coming in at number 5, and again I thought this one was going to be higher, is the original Die Hard. The very first one with Alan Rickman, Val Johnson. Great movie. Super action. Basically, it is the pinnacle, at least one of the pinnacles of the one-man army movie. So you got Schwarzenegger, you got Van Damme, you got Bruce Willis. Maybe, and then I might, if Bruce Lee lived longer, Bruce Lee would definitely be in there. So, but heck, I'm going to put him in there anyway. So, Die Hard, the original, comes in at number 5. So now what would we take for number 4? At number 4, I have Looper, which I recently bought the 4K of. In this futuristic action thriller Looper, time travel has been invented, but it's illegal and only available in the black market. When the mob wants to get rid of someone, they send their target 30 years into the past, where a looper, a hired gun like Joseph Gordon-Levitt, is waiting to mop up. Joe is getting rich and life is good until the day the mob decides to close the loop, sending back Joe's future self, Bruce Willis, for assassination. This is a really neat movie, and I'm glad I was able to put this on this list. And this actually ended up higher than I expected, which is interesting. But at number 4 is Looper. Okay, we're getting into the top 3. I'm getting really jazzed. So at number 3, which, I mean, this is probably one of my favorites, at least. And I'm glad it's in the top 3, but I might have put this at number 1 if I was just going to pick my favorites. But coming in at number 3 is Red. And just the cast alone, you got Bruce Willis, Morgan Freeman, John Malkovich, Helen Mirren, Carl Urban, Brian Cox, just amazing cast. Let's read the box. Frank is a former Black Ops CIA agent living a quiet life alone until the day a hit squad shows up to kill him. With his identity compromised, Frank reassembles his old team, Joe, Morgan Freeman, Marvin, John Malkovich, and Victoria, Helen Mirren, and sets out to prove that they still have a few tricks up their sleeves. Stand back and watch the bullets fly in this explosive action comedy that critics call a rip-roaring good time. Okay, rip-roaring good time? Sure, I agree with that. Um, I know oddly enough, this is a comic book movie. This is a DC comic books movie. So, all you DC fans out there, you should be watching this. Um, but yeah, Red, number three, solid number three. Very happy with this choice. And I only got two more left. So coming in at number two is Armageddon. And Armageddon is number two because mainly I'm a disaster movie junkie. So I love this movie. This is another one that could have easily been my number one. And probably, you know, 10 years ago was probably my number one. So let's read the box. When NASA's director, Billy Bob Thornton, realizes the Earth has 18 days before it's destroyed by a meteor the size of Texas, he has only one option: land a ragtag team of roughneck oil drillers on the asteroid and drop a nuke into its core. With spectacular special effects, laugh out loud humor, and a riveting story, and a rockin' soundtrack featuring Aerosmith and Bon Jovi, this adrenaline pumping thrill ride now boasts the staggeringly intense picture and incomparable theater quality sound of the Blu ray high definition. Right. So I'm looking for a 4K of this when it comes out. Um, but it is in DTS, which is kind of cool. But anyway, yeah, soundtrack's good, cast is great. I do like the acting. Story's got some weak sauce in it. Um, but yeah, number two. You might think it's number two in a different way, but I think it's my number two, and is my number two of Bruce Willis movies. So we're getting to my final Bruce Willis movie, and um, I'm going back to the Die Hard franchise because, oddly enough, and people are going to disagree, and I totally understand, but um, my favorite of the Die Hard series, which also just happens to be my number one all-time favorite Bruce Willis movie, which I didn't expect. It's not, most people have the first one as their favorite. Most people have the third one as their favorite, and they are on my list, but they're not my favorite. My favorite of the Die Hard franchise and my number one favorite Bruce Willis movie of all time, even though I have the Steelbook, I'm going with the single case of this, is Live Free or Die Hard. This is number 4 on the list on the franchise. And number 1 in my hearts. So, you got Timothy Olyphant as the bad guy. Probably not my favorite bad guy, but I do like his snarky humor. Mary Elizabeth Winstead, Cliff Curtis, Justin Long, good cast, tremendous action. I was hooked all the way through. So that's the last one. Live Free or Die Hard is my number one Bruce Willis movie of all time, my favorite of the Die Hard franchise, and I'm actually really happy about this. I didn't expect this to be. I wanted it in the top 4 probably, but that it made number 1, I'm actually pretty impressed. So that's it. Let's go over the list again. So at 15, Striking Distance, 14, Mercury Rising, 13, Unbreakable, 12, Die Hard with a Vengeance, 11, The Jackal, 10 was 12 Monkeys. 9 was The Siege. 8 was The Last Boy Scout. 7 was The Sixth Sense. 6 was The Fifth Element. 5 was the original Die Hard. 4 was Looper. 3 was Red. 2 was Armageddon. And at number 1, Live Free or Die Hard. That's it for me at the 4K Lowdown. I hope you guys enjoyed. Please like and subscribe. Turn on your notifications. I'm gonna keep doing more of these, so stay tuned. But in the meantime, just remember, don't sweat the petty things and don't pet the sweaty things. Take care.